Tene tatanda chenamba kangala tahidele hyujuta. Tene tati jesula cherdo ta chenamba kanga ndero pepala. Tene yenda ganda kanya meba. Tene ngweni tambi chu kona duya gechetula peparela. Tene tepe mesipe kumon cheparachin. Tā ngā rānsu tāmbi chū tān tāmbā sōmbā sāngbō kūmhō chēpara chīn tēn tāmbi chū tē chēpara chīn yīmbā lā chēpara chīn yīmbā ngō xī tē ñāwsā lēng gu gāndō sōm nē tēn nindar pēpā tē tāmbō kūmhō ngō ngō sē nā yā pē yāpō tēn jēmā ngōndu gā tēn chū rū chū tēn sō pē kāl chēmbō pē yāpō xī rā chūngā la tini teya chitanga tini ta tanda ndaru pepa la le labo ma imba ta chitanga susu leka mambo yeba tenzo jitinka leka mambo yeba tenzo yup ne ta tambi chudrupeke cherto ungu yeba jayta tini ndaru pepa la ya tini le labo ma imba pe thorimbo ne tene namchu chikasi to, tene kali jab, ta tende sini chamba tea la, ja inji tenki shawa, chedu ma inpa tambi chuko ni, chedu la, pepa te, pe, sambi kumhunga onta sena yo, cheparta papa, te chunyam nenga onta sena yo, cheparta papa, pe, ta ngaranso, gawe jisu irong gupa, rabu tende chongyo wari la, tene te kankala, tuji che, pe mesiba yabo, tene tanda che namba ina ya ta ngaran pe yabu chongdo samba dabo ta tene nangko kare re la tene dina la pe sadu ya ta tanda che ta ngaran su chuge shawa maton ji tingi shawa kanya yo ma re te la chudu ya re te se du te la yang kap ka la te si ngaran su kambe pocha go onge ta che ngon chal dabo ta teni je jitin ke chawe tendo nangin da wo te nyenka shorju gi nyenka yo la teni te shoro mai ba ta ngara tangpo ko te chu ran som ni yo re teni ti chawa te chu ran ge chu yo re teni tanda hyapo dain de hyapo kha hi ya ba te perna ti se te sern da bo je yo re ngara so ta ngone chu tu ke ti se zangbo che par tam pa je teni te la che ripadne chuchi riri la ina yung chola micro wache te yendo kama riri ina yung chola micro wache ta pe ngarancho ge tini maung bendalam chebar tam paba ta che jache sa ni hi na temba ta senchin ke ta senkin ina yung rong jachu sa ni hi na rang so su ge rang da du ya ge che to la ina yung rong sende ge ta de ina yung rong jewa chime ta de ina yung rong te tu se te kal chenpo che hindu te la te tu se ten chola ma tong wa che ke go ne nyam ne nang ju ta te ne tu se chola tang se ke te ya che tang sem je tai ne ya ta che ngara so te che no ing go on to shor se gre te kare re se na du ja ka ya ma re te yin na yam khorwa thoma me pa na ka ba cha go on ge nam to na man da sha tini ti tu sen chola ro ta te de yung re la tini te la ya te hi pa ya wo te ne nyam ne ji te ke no ing go on to shor mi ni sam ba da ko te ta tini te yen do lungwa go on to sen na ya ta te ngaran su sa sa che ne lungwa ge je pa ta lu ji je pa ta te yen do ngwa ge na ya tini je ngangchala so pa te mi ge tam hirag tini on to ma hirwa te ribadem ni tini lungwa ye som te tambe chu la tse to pa che ta chitang go on to se na ngaran su kal che wa te me se kombo la chu to gu yo re te ina ya ti su su che o thamal ba sen kin te le la yo ma re te se du te la ta tan tan ngaran su tambe chu du ya ge che tu ndana pe te chu drupe ke shawa si nda tu se pe yapo kunhong pe yapo chepar chenchi chong yo re la te ten chola ma hyo wa ji za za ji ni nyam ni se ju te pe kal chi.
Good morning to you all. Each and every one of you has come here for no other reason than your sincere wish to practice Dharma. This in itself is evidence of your having an authentic and remarkable motivation, because it means that you've recognized the excellence of Dharma and that based on that recognition, you sincerely wish to practice it. This wish on your part and the practice that results from this wish are both wonderful. It wasn't easy for you to get here. In order to come here, you had to cast aside other mundane activities, responsibilities, and so forth that would normally have filled this time. You've had to travel, in most cases, a considerable distance, which has involved, among other things, the purchase of an airplane ticket and all of the other expenses and difficulties of travel. You've done all of this for no reason other than your wish to hear and practice Dharma. So this too is evidence of your excellent and worthy intention. And I rejoice in this. I thank you for this. And I'm very, very pleased with this. There's nothing for you to do here other than the study and practice of Dharma. Now we all know that. That's why we came here. Nevertheless, we have all sorts of habits that have accrued throughout beginningless samsara. And among these habits are the habits of such things as careless speech and distraction. I remind you of this simply because it's possible that these habits could reassert themselves in this environment in spite of your basic intention. You should remind yourself, I came here at the cost of great effort and considerable expense, and I made this time, separated this time out from my busy schedule, purely for the purpose of Dharma practice. This time really is quite short. It is just a few days. Therefore, I must not waste an hour or even a minute. Remember that this short time that we have together is a time of potentially great profit for you in this and in future lives. And I mention this simply because we have these habits of distraction, and they do reassert themselves even in this environment and even under these circumstances. We should not regard ourselves as bad or deficient when this happens, but we need to guard ourselves against it. We do so by maintaining the faculties of mindfulness and alertness, and being particularly careful not only with our minds, but also with our bodies and speech, in our physical conduct, and in particular with our speech, so that we not engage in either careless or excessive talking. In short, concentrate solely on Dharma with body, speech, and mind. We have habits of doing otherwise, but in spite of those habits, it's necessary that we not waste this opportunity.
Tene tateya tanda jegombo page somne sanjig doi longtang ni somyo la tene pe pen chempo kalpa sangbo perna kong pe ya ni sanjig dog nom de somne perna ngaranso gamjap sandra boje dukhan boje la 다 drogi yin ngarang ge chuji pige chetor drogi yin somne kamba kampu teni ya jeng banda bon tene ten droji madwa teni tnalan droji madro gomje madro wanda boje yin ta teta bo kamba ka tambo komo che parchenji che kamba kampu patela pen dan tempatan drebo don tempa yungre bisena teni tela yang pen 다 가라 지당가 ngaran susama ta tel tenda kaya pemba kaya yo mare sonsonda rete yinaya sanjirang ki songna tia be gopa chempo ton pento chempo shiro chong yo re karire sena ngarang nguni tambi chu nyans lengi yin sombe ko hu chebra ji tela lunga ge jepa ko on sena tam kamba kampu tinde chung re la tea tanda kaju yinayong tolan dog mare Tin Devati, Mahopala, Sanjitento Pocha, Zampo Cheperchin, the Gilachini, Te Chezani, Chezan, Changini, Changi, Landroni, Mahopala, Tartugo on the Senatelan Devi Yapa, Pento Yapa, Gopa Yapa, Randan Junju Yapa, Yendan Junju Yap and Devi, Jachim Bunjungare, somewhere. Tindi song yo re la tini te tabo tini ngone gom jeju chong yo mare ta ti pe ga on de se te gom jeju chong yo mare nang us ro ju chong yo mare te yin na ya ta tang bo kam ba kun che pra jin ji ne kam ba ka pu ba re la te la yan de ja chim bu jin jung yo na ngaran su sa chan de na ka le mon bo ja ni yo kun che pra jin ji la ji tini te la ti me si le ge tini ka Jani Gongja, Nyamni se, Chu Nye, Chu Tu, Chu Nyam Sulang, Tindi se, Ta Tilan Dev Jachin Bunjunju Yaba, Hi Maguba La, Teacher Nape, Ta Ngaransun Tanala Unju Tela, Gawa Gongguba, Narayan Naya Tela Gawa Gongguba, Chiranamba Naya Tela, Sana Gawa Gongguba, Da, Pe, Guba Cheperchin, Dev Cheperchin Topachi, La, Tini Tela Pe, Nyamni, Yapona, Topache. 가르치게 되니 다티 가싱가 단다 그룹 인터뷰 논 제게 좋아나래라티 야보 좋아 야보 싫어나 좀 somsonga titring arangi te hyona tini chitang tini seji luji la nrebu to sanji chi kompon topa te pe kalchimbo re tini te mato na ta karichimbo re se tini tuwa na re la ti tuwa te pe yabodo tini te chitang seji luji la nrebu topa te ta pe chepartan papa re 조조 침봉 음악인데 참바래 나란소요 때 깔리자 토나 전주 좀 톱나 때 투그래데 이나야 때 마토나야 때네 깔리 냠네 제주 중화대야 배 단다 매반다고 많이 배 펜토 침봉 그래라 페르나 단다 안드니 다 뉴욕라고 제란도나 tini ko chusi jingi jela namdu non hyo new york ndo na le la bore be ya bore re te yina ya ten ro ma tho na tini kale gari na ndo darin le ma tho na ya dogon tini tanda motor jela ndo ya sa ni ndo ya te ma le na ya motor jela ndo te sa jin ndo ya te chi kale khada te chi ngal so tini ya kale ndo na te rimbi ge tini new york le ndo jera pe te yendal ngaranso seji luji ki sunju dojin chungo kompo mato naya ta mesendala chunyam ni yabuji se tin drevo te kadu yina yung log mare tini te yang ta yang ti jiwa chima la yung ngume chuga pacha te yung rela ti chuga pacha la teni tambi chudro te tele jiwa ngama tele yak si chung yang ti jiwa chima te la yang tini kambi pacha ka go ni chudro ti jiwa te la yang ngama tele yak si chung tin tatu kren drevo la rimbi ke levgi yorela te tabla tene tandang aranso ge sendala devu topatea pe kal chemporela sendala devu matna ya te tsam ke chepar ke do yo marela ten aranso chudu jite kadu ina ya tolan to yo marela ten de se tu kadu ina ya ten semba gawada to mon chu nyam ni non pe ya bo ke do yo.
Lord Gampopa wrote, quoting the Buddha, that if someone were to take one step toward a meditation retreat with the intention of going there and practicing, and if having taken that single step they were somehow prevented from going any farther, so that they neither reached their destination nor actually engaged in any meditation practice, this would still be of tremendous benefit. Their having taken that single step would benefit them and would produce a result. Now, normally when we think of such a situation, we think of it as a situation of failure, something that is useless. But according to the Buddha, it is otherwise. It is a situation of tremendous benefit. Because in that situation, the person generated a very powerful and important intention, the intention to go to the place of practice and to meditate. And they also did something with action of body and speech to bring that about. These things in and of themselves are sufficient to instill in that person a strongly entrenched habit that will only increase over time. Such a person will eventually experience tremendous benefit for themselves and be able to benefit others. Well, in our present situation, you have all done much more than that. In the example, the person did not get to meditate or even reach their destination, but you have succeeded in doing both. To get here, you took far more than one single step, and you were successful in actually reaching this destination, and you have been engaging in the practice of meditation. So it's really not necessary to remark upon the fact that this is going to be beneficial. In short, I rejoice in this, and you yourselves should also rejoice in it. The results of what you have done and are doing will be tremendous. So I urge you to use this opportunity to practice. Yesterday, during the group interview, a question was asked that I think was very, very good and important. So I'm going to answer it as I did yesterday, again this morning. The question was, if we do not succeed in achieving perfect awakening, the state of unity, the state of Vajradhara, in this very life and this very body, for what should we aim? What results should we seek? My answer is to say, first of all, it is possible to achieve the state of perfect awakening in this life. We know this because it has been done repeatedly by Mahasiddhas. So if we are diligent enough to do that, we can and will do so. But even if we do not achieve the state of perfect awakening in this lifetime, we should not conclude from that our efforts have been wasted. It is not the case that if you don't achieve perfect awakening in a certain lifetime, you have to start from the very beginning all over again in the next lifetime. For example, let's say that we wanted to go from here to New York City. The easiest or quickest way to get there would be to get to an airport and fly there in a plane. You could get there in a few hours that way. But suppose you weren't able to do it that way. You could drive there. It would take a few days. You would only get part of the way in each day's journey. But nevertheless, each day's journey would not be wasted. It would be bringing you closer to your destination. And after a few days, you would have reached your destination. In the same way, even though we may not traverse the entire path in this life, we will traverse part of it, and we will start from wherever we ended up in our next life. In that way, each lifetime will be better than the preceding one. In each lifetime, we will progress further along the path. So if someone achieves the ultimate result of perfect awakening in this life, it need not be said, that's wonderful. But even if you do not do so, you should rejoice in the fact and be enthusiastic about the fact that your practice is producing a result and is bringing you ever closer to awakening.
Tene ta tanda ngarang Thrangu Rinpoche kor shugi yen la ta kasing ge kapsu chudu po nyamling ge kor chuparela po nyamling tel namba ngayor namba nga na ne ta chukun po atong longkun po ni bote chitang ge shomagu baje tene ta ti je sala kari chupare se na chukun po atong sala lamen po ni bote kasing chuparela ta Thrangu ka sala khya de nga ba kaje jim po asen ke kaje jim po asen ke de ta de top hinkam jongwa se tene ta de la ya jitang ge ta ngaran so sen ge zorwa de 갈치와 임베처나 되네 단다 지당가 대화진도 지위 주기야 생긴다고 되어라 대화진도 지위 주기야는 힘감이 일라 잡았어 되네 답이 힘감한테 일라 양세 감 되네 તનાલા સાંજે તો ચાંચુ સંબાતોજી યુયાપતે યાંસે 일라 감네 다 답이 힘감 jonne ta de lai chitang ranso yidam je lai jerem gam kabla yen ya kabkala dachi ke namba la gon ngara tene mada pengo pa mai ba takwala gonji ba jeta kawkalam denji jinambala gonne tene yeram jalai hinkam tong yae konto tene koi kapala so patangi yepa gomba tetabo yinayo ram tene ngara tetabo mai na ta jewa chimala ta hinkam changma je de yabo je la jewa sangbo je lembe ne te zo yang ni yang do yila sati tene de yang ni yang to ting yang ni yang to ta ngara je jewa sangbo je lembe ge mi yunda bo je lene tetabo gomba hinkam yila chawa hinkam jongwa 다 대답하지 라 되니 대라야 다 대기당 그 니무가서라야 대답 양세 되니 이람절라이 힘감도 징콜라서 봐 냠여가 가서로 검나용다 지톱가 가서리나 양세 땡 되니 답이 힘감다 보던 상지도 장주선 받은 주가 고다 힘감라서 봐 양세 땡 된데 그래 소 대다 대현도 되네 다 될라 ndalana konsa te mulam tujungjonghi gu sonarela ta te ya mulam te nimolayan kangu gi warela tene semolayan te kamne ta ngaranzo mulam jang mulam te ya mulam senkente kan kalche gi ware se na tene ta tanda zo rang semjin damba Trembata hiking culture. Nita, Mulam Sekit, Nandu Nigi, Nandu Ni Segi, somebody. Nala Mulam Dende, Mohiba Segi, somebody in the Tujundu, Tenhipo Yetena, then Tambo culture, Tambo Mulam de Mohibachi, Mulam Nimba. Kashi ranking Mulam Mohiba, young cigarette. Data Mulam Mohini, Tinitia. Mulam Marapate, Tabala Jurgi, somebody. Tenite, Ramjalai, Kodon, Jerem La Sopala, Juyandabo, and Duta. Tene Tabi Hinkan Dog, Nambandabota. Tene Naran Hill Nambandabota. Naran Hini, Tatinis, Muni, Hinkan Durgi, Hinkan and Tendis in the Dogi. Tiki was some Tendis in the Langi, somebody, Tindil, Ramji, Comni, Tea, Sena, Nimoten Hiton Boy, Yaboji. Nimoten Hiton Boy, Yaboji, Semon Yalam Musambata, Mulam Musen, Mulam Teti, Jurto Bandabota, Mulam Teti, Jan to Bandabota, Tindil Comni, Tinirin Big, Tela Yansi, Comna, Tini Padukapsalaya, Teta Buga, no Harney, then Narantapi Hingon Dotobata, Jenny Zombo Lane to Bandaboji in Bicherna, Tatela Kajimpo.
Dikapsa Kache de Shinkamchi Mingla Shagni. And now I'll begin this morning's instruction. Yesterday we were looking at the ejection of consciousness, and you will remember that there are 5 types of ejection of consciousness. The first 2, the Dharmakaya and Sambhogakaya ejection, did not need to be presented separately. Then what we talked about yesterday was the 3rd, Nirmanakaya ejection, and the 4th, ejection through the Guru's blessing. This morning we come to the 5th, which is called the celestial ejection or Kachari ejection. Here, celestial or Kachari is used generally to refer to pure realms. So what this practice consists of is training your mind in such a way that you will take rebirth in a pure realm. And this is done through applying yourself with great effort to this end. For example, it's taught that rebirth in the realm of Amitabha, the realm of Sukhavati, results from 4 causes. The first of these is keeping the realm in mind. Now, what is meant by this? It means to repeatedly contemplate and imagine the realm of Sukhavati and its inhabitants, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who inhabit it. Now, how can you do this? As you know, there are 2 ways that we meditate upon a yidam. Sometimes we visualize ourselves as the deity, which we call self-generation, and sometimes we visualize the deity and his or her realm in front of us, which we call front generation. One way to keep the realm in mind is to formally meditate on it in the manner of a front generation, or you can simply recollect the qualities and appearance of the realm, recollect its purity. And if you do so repeatedly, you establish a strong momentum and aim in your mind of wishing to take rebirth there. This process is called training your mind in the realm, and it needs to be cultivated in general in both formal meditation and in post-meditation. In this specific context, the practice of celestial ejection consists of not only contemplating the realm that you wish to take birth in during the day in both meditation and post-meditation, but also at night during the dream state. So in order to do this, according to our text, you need to assiduously train yourself in the recognition and transformation of dreams. Recognition refers to lucid dreaming, the ability to know that you are dreaming while you are dreaming. Transformation refers to the subsequent ability to alter the appearances of the dream state. Primarily, these two skills depend upon the possession of mindfulness and alertness in general, and in particular, being strongly motivated, having a strong intention, so that before you go to sleep, you apply your mindfulness and alertness in the formulation of the strong intention, I will recognize that I am dreaming while I am dreaming, and having done so, I will do such and such, whatever transformation it is you wish to cultivate. Now, some people lucid dream automatically. Many people do not. But in either case, the skill can be gained through the power of intention and mindfulness. Once the skill of lucid dreaming has been gained, you then must apply it in the transformation of the dream appearances. First of all, you transform the appearances of the dream state into the pure appearances of the body and realm of your deity. And then, having mastered that, you use the dream as a place to practice going to the particular pure realm in which you seek birth. You consider that it is this time of your death, and you rehearse your going to that pure realm by actually trying to go there during the dream state. So in that way, through the recognition and transformation of the dream process, you gain the ability to train your mind in a pure realm. And this is what is called here celestial ejection.
Tene tati Jesu tati poa ngaboti chitang jangben nambara ndabu jeta tati poa de lela jarwa sungi warala poa de lela jarwa sedu tangaran une ta chiwe kapsla tene ta kandiji ngarang poa nyaso lomba de pento ya pa kandiji chigugre sedu tene tati ge kap tena la tene chitang poa parwe ge ngarang Vipashyana yeng roram nana kantarya tene chen den hong ge hiancha ta ti chen de se gu nor lonche nin za ro la so pa la ta chitang ko de chen hiancha yong re khayo mare te yinaya ta ti kap tna la ta nga ta se te hiancha je ndo sin peng yo mare la ta ngarang dalam zangbo ji ni gu ge yo la tini tela hiancha se na pemba yo na hiancha se na indigi yo re ta ti hiancha se na ti yu ya ji ma to ta ti hiancha se na pemba yo mare ba teacher na tang hiancha je ge mai samba je ge lo sa ji ni ta te je hiancha me ba je ta de yendo tini nyemo ba tusam la so nyemo ba on do ma hirwa songwa la ta ti chitang ke kal che hyun do ti hiancha ma hirwa je ta tini de yendo la nyemo ba tusam la so ba on do ma hirwa nyemo ba tusam ge nani ya ta pe na hiedan dan deja dan tini temu dan thado la so ba on do ma hirwa ji kal che ge yo la tini te yang chitang ke ta ngara su tujon de nyemo ba che ge re te yina ya ti kap tna la ta nyemo ba ji su ju na pento khaya yo mare la tene pento kaya meba imbichirna ten ko lamsung pa yupne tene ngarang zo chihyu ngarang rang tene ndalam tene mikpa yaputi te toba jay ichi tse jikba tene gogi wara la tene te yang ta ngarang zo tikap tena la chegi samna tesi langsung yunga te tesi kali kapore la tene te kari gogi se na tangpo ni kamchanda pochi yo gogi wara tene ta te kalchewa tenzo ngarang zo tujondo tengi gosi jangan kontrol pochi ke tanda jezu ne duga nang song wara la tene tesi ngarang zo tujondo ne tesi ta tende yungreba tende yung kabla tene te ngarang reng gugreba ngarang te ond mahiro wachi gugreba ti kabla nye mombo ond mahiro wato ti kabla choyinga ond mahiro wachi kalche greba song sana yang se train to bachi shona ti kab dana la ya sana shart bachi yung yore la teacher na jeje go bachi ta tene phoa ga ond se na ya chitang tene kyo chombo poga ne tanya de no hindo ya de hiro yo mare la ten ro ge tap la tene ngaran so ge perna doji sempe gam de se pe kabla ina ya doji semba rang ge chu la gam ge pa che te gem da la men nan jo gam pe kala ya rang sa la ma to jipe la ma te rang ge chu la gam ba ti chu la gam ge bi jun sen kare re ya men na ngarang thakwa ye la gam de na digre te ina ya te mai ba chu rang la gam ge yo re la ti chu la gam ba te la yo go pa yo re ti ta ba tana ya so ma ta je perna tanda tenji ngui yi kapsule na ya tana gam ne mi patna te tene tengi jithop ta tunsamje kaplan dabo je le na ya ta ti lama te saw lama to jibe lama ina ya rong doje sembala sobata ina ya rong te ta ngarang ji chu le yo sambata bo je tene solwa ta pe kapsule tana takwa yo sambata bo je yo na tene perna ya nyen khatan jikra la so bata ba ji je na ya no so ngarang ge je la yiram je la te dang te ya na sa la ma to jibe la ma te dang te yu yo sam ba da ba ji song tot na tene ngwe ni khora nyen kha ri chung kap ta na la tena la mi pan ro to ba ji chang na tene che kap la yin na long so ti train to ba je rang ge je la ya mi pan ro to ba je yung ge yo ra la tene te tu jondo te ta bu gam ba te ya be kal chem bu
The explanation of the 5 types of ejection is an explanation of how to cultivate them or practice them. And now we come to the second aspect of ejection, which is its application, and that is to say, how to make use of it at the time of death. First of all, whether the ejection is going to be performed by you, the dying person, or by somebody else assisting you, the first thing you must do in preparation for it and for dying in general is to, as much as possible, relinquish all clinging and craving for the things of this life. And this includes all the things to which we are normally so attached: our stuff, our wealth, and our friends. You have to let go of all of this, and the reason is that while it is normal for us to do anything but let go of it, to cling to these things ferociously, it simply is no help whatsoever to do that. If by clinging to these things we could keep them, then we would regard it as worthwhile. But the fact is that no matter how much you cling to these things, you cannot possibly keep them. So the clinging does nothing except disturb you. So the first thing is to let go of that clinging. Along with this, it's important not to allow your mind to come under the power of any of the 3 poisons: attachment, aversion, or bewilderment. Now, of these, the most important to watch out for is clinging and craving. But nevertheless, we also have to ensure that we not give rise to anger and so on while we are dying. We often do generate these kleshas, and it may seem normal for us to do so, but as with clinging, the fact is that they are no use at all at death. So what you need at the time of death is a mind that can be one-pointedly focused on a particular thing, a particular visualization or practice that you're going to use. Now, it's obviously too late if you start cultivating freedom from kleshas then, if you've maintained a strong habit of giving rise to them. So you need to start preparing yourself for this now. As was written by Jangwa Lodro Tai in his book, The Essence of Generation and Completion, what's key here is the act of repeated recollection. To think about the fact that when such and such thing happens, for example, the process of dying and so on, I must not do such and such, for example, giving rise to kleshas and so forth. Through preparing yourself beforehand, by recollecting the onset of a certain situation and establishing the momentum of not reacting to it in certain ways, you will have the ability at that time to avoid those reactions. As well, in order to facilitate the proper ejection of consciousness, you need to maintain the habit of your awareness being to some extent directed to the top of your head. Normally, our awareness is not directed to the top of your head, but there are several things you can do to ensure that it is so. For example, when you do the Vajrasattva practice and the Guru Yoga practice, in both cases, you visualize the deity and Guru above your head. One of the reasons for doing so is to get into the habit of directing your attention and awareness to this part of your body. It's reasonable to wonder, otherwise, why we would do this. Why don't we simply visualize the Guru on top of one of our shoulders? Why on top of our head? It's because we want to learn to direct our awareness there. If you can extend this beyond practice sessions, so that between sessions you always imagine your root Guru or a deity inseparable from the root Guru above your head, and supplicate them there, this will be tremendously beneficial. Especially if you can learn to visualize the root Guru above your head and supplicate him in any moment of crisis. This will create the momentum of reacting to crises this way. And since death is a crisis, it will cause you to visualize the Guru there at that time.
Tene ta tejendo somjur ngemba ta kamdana somjur chicken somjur sina tan chiwa tan chiwe ke patatna nam to ngemba jini somjur ngemba junzi zangji jong po ke che pa yin tan po ngarang ke ripa demne tene ta te ya chiwa sangpolin to pa la ripa dem tene tunong ngemba miyon wala ripa demne tesi pekapla yang jing ngemba je ke tesi hedang je gu pandabo ta tene thado je gu pandabo nongtong ngemba pandabo je jesi patende yongre la tela tikap tana la pe zazazi tene chewe ke to sen ke tinju ya tende ke jing ngemba ma yorwa je zazazi ju te pe kalche gre la tene te ya ta ngaranso je pa tu jing jiting on de sena tene ta je montung da buji hyor tupan da buji hyor tupa hyor ne tene mete ta se shiranka tel pe tene omsik dam pe ngar chendo kabo se hedang je ne ta tende se na ta jiting on de se na mete power pen besko gnon me power tin so tene shiranka go omsik dam tende chege yore la
Dano yang drawo la control sawa
ten garanzo ga tati yapore te paure sin tende sege yore te inna yo tam ta ngune garanzo tam bichu gan dalang on te sin tati chijing ba te tene tati somjurung ba che somjurung ba yore la tende mayong wa te yinji minji garanzo zabza be kalching.
It's not funny, I'm sorry. I have a strange sense of humor. I mean, it's really not funny. Another thing that our text points out is that we have to beware of even the slightest or briefest negative interruption. A negative interruption here refers to where in the midst of doing a process of practice, like the ejection of consciousness, your mind becomes distracted by some internal or external condition and engages in negativity, such as anger or jealousy and so on. Because of the power of momentum of the mind at the time of death, it's important that this not happen, because it can change the direction you're headed in entirely. So you need to be careful to avoid this, and this is one reason why you need to be careful to ensure that your companions, those who surround you as you die, not be individuals who are going to carelessly do things or say things that will cause you to give rise to kleshas. In the world, and this is what I thought was funny, but it isn't. In the world, we think that someone who dies in a state of anger and defiant bravery is a hero. For example, if you're in the midst of a war or some other kind of fight, and as you're dying, you bite your lip and still try to kill as many of your enemies as you can as you go, and you say things like, I'm going to take as many of them with me as I can, we consider that really an act of valor. But from a Dharma point of view, it's the worst thing you could possibly do. So you want to avoid that kind of state of mind as you're dying, if at all possible.
Tene ta te ta ngone ta ngone ngarang ripademne tene jai yabuyo jai tene tesamme pandabota ichi tan temba jai tene gogre somne tampoaga tamma tene ti mikpaten so saltap tene mikpaten so saltap ne ta yana labo meji tukala temba yana yiram jalai tukala temba yana tsawela me tukala temne tene ngarang la pe la tsawela ma to tui je ndripa gamba ta labo me to thuta labo me ji thuto rang se yen me to ndrene tene pe ngara la nyam to che para ji jil jewa ta kewa zambo len ta pata tende ke mano zambo to tender zambo ta tende gongo res.
So in that way, to perform the ejection of consciousness as you are dying, you focus your awareness with complete trust and without doubt or hesitation on the particular visualization of the particular form of the ejection practice that you're doing. And then, having generated the visualization, you eject your consciousness into the heart of the deity above you, whether it is the Buddha Amitabha or your particular Yidam or your root guru. In any case, you eject your consciousness into the heart of the visualized deity or guru, thinking that you mix your mind with theirs. And through that practice and the attendant aspiration, you ensure that you take a positive rebirth.
Tene ta tanda ngune ge ta te tanda ge theki dana kare den ware se na po jangju to po jang bu kap la ngune jang tang da boda tene te gendo tanda lot lendang ngune hiu kap la yan khande jin pe je tang gu ge ya pa ti kap so la riba dem gu ge ya pa ta ten so salbor sung re la tene ngune ge nyamne chi pe kap so la tene te nyamne ge mikpa kante chi gugi yapa ten ngaranzo choga kandela teni nyamne chi gugi yapa choga tela teni nyamne chi pekapso la teni ta tela migrem hipta kante gugi yapa tela kante gong gugi yapa kante chini jang gugi yapa tenzo teni chitang ngaranzo poa che jang jute kal chimbore teni te yinchi minchi ngaranzo mese tela poa che jang tuba tene te jang ne jang sul te ya tene rang lama te ne ta ti tong ne po jang pe dong ma ten so kasin hi pa yin to hipcha si ne hipcha si lap ne tene te ya po gam te nyam ne che tene po ga ta ten pa che po ga ta ten se ke te ha jang ka le ka yo ma re la te dong ma zen ta che par jin pe na po ga ta ten ge yo te pom po ga ta ten pa gam po ga ta ten ni tang ngam po ta ten pa yin tang ngang ngen song che ge ma re ngara che wa sang po len tu ge re sang pa ma yin pa Tinga Kashi Kapkala, Jane Poata Tanaya, Janam Yambashi, Teni Lendilla, Ichi Mepandabotan, Teni Tejandola, Lady Palayum, Benzem Pandabotan, Gewalayum Tono, Tesom Mezi Pandabotinde, Kashi, Yung Sigrella, Tendabu Maimba. Tin Poata Tanaya, Tin Trachin Zambu Gugrella, Trachin Zambu Guditella, Tin Tini Zamdi, Tujundo, Legend de la Ichi Yapatan, Legend de la Ichi Yapatan Maimpa, Lalin Lion Kasi Tutug, Tartabate, Tene, Tachitang, Dipa Miguel and Zam Sinkite, Tene, Naransu Missile, Inchi Minchi Dipati Goya Yomarella, Dipa Chitang Sigwe Yomare, Tene, Tinoni, Mixalga, Tandangaranga Sona, Yajitan Temple Lumbala, Tene, Inchi Minchi, Tene, Dipa Miguel and Zemi, the Chigwe Yomare, Naransu, Ronso Lekale, Samba Zamboche, Tene Tig, Lani, Gedig Londo Lani Apotarna, Mandipa Hiraka Yomarella, Ten Gedig Londo Tensola, Yamni Aponan to the culture.
What's presented here in our text is essentially the theory behind the ejection of consciousness, how you practice it in general terms and why, and how you apply it, how you use it, its benefit, the need to focus your awareness at the time of death and its practice, and so on. As for the actual technical or practical instructions in the ejection of consciousness, you need to receive these as they're presented specific to a specific practice. So you would then select a particular form of the ejection of consciousness that you wish to practice and receive the detailed instructions in that practice, learn all of those details assiduously, and then you perform it until the signs of the ability to eject your consciousness arise. These physical signs of the ability to eject your consciousness are not as difficult to achieve as they may sound. So therefore you do need to practice the ejection of consciousness until these signs are achieved. Having achieved the signs of successful ejection, however, you should not become overconfident. You should not think, well, since I have now achieved the signs of successful ejection, I will certainly not fall into lower states, so therefore I can do whatever I want. This attitude sometimes occurs because people are aware of the tremendous benefit of the ejection of consciousness, and because they've practiced it successfully, they thereafter think that their behavior doesn't matter. They misbehave, they ignore the results of actions, and become somewhat degenerate. This is not going to work, because you still require supportive conditions in order to achieve the ejection of consciousness. And one of these supportive conditions is not to behave that badly. So you still need, for the rest of your life, to avoid wrongdoing as much as possible. In my opinion, Rinpoche said, there really is no need for us to engage in wrongdoing. And this is particularly true in an affluent society where you can support yourself fairly well without doing anything too bad.
Tene tatige chekpatu korte, ipa chekpatu korte hibarella. Tate jesola sumba chuni wesa chepatola tore. Tene te zamsena. Naranso gante sijana so.
That completes our presentation of the second of the four intervals, the interval of the time of death. The third interval is called the interval of the clear light of Dharmata, or sometimes just the interval of Dharmata. I'm going to begin the presentation of that tomorrow morning, so we'll stop where we are for this morning and conclude with meditation.
The